I never liked Trump. Trump was never my person. I was never a fan of Donald Trump. When he was being elected in 2016, I actually prayed against him. I said, God, do not let this man win. And he won. He came again in 2024 and said he was running again. I was like, what is this man coming for again? I never believed he was going to win. At the end of the day, this man emerged the winner for the second time. Then I sat down. I was like, who exactly is this man, Donald Trump? My greatest influence is no other person than Dr. Chris Oyakhilome. I realized that this man was mostly talking about how we can be successful in life. I had always wanted to write a book, but I never knew it was going to start in 2024. The election was November 5th, and the result was announced on the 6th of November. And on the 7th, I started writing this book.
This is not a political book, but it's only a fool that will see something working and not ask a question. How or why is this thing working like it's working? I want to know.
See, you are not going to be better than the environment in which you were raised, except you make that effort, that conscious effort to live above that surrounding.
There are people that genuinely believe that everybody is supposed to be poor in life. They genuinely believe that because that is literally everything that the environment spoke to them about.
Yeah. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Yeah.
One word that comes to my mind when I think about Donald Trump is resilience.
See, let me tell you something. We live in a society that tries to make us what they feel we should look like or we should be like. Look at Trump, for example. He had a lot of detractors, distractions, oppositions, slanders, and many things, accusations, allegations. Instead of him focusing on those things, he remained focused on his goal of returning to power. Like I mentioned earlier, I never even believed he was going to be qualified to be in the ballot. But here's him, this man today, presiding over us as the president of the greatest nation on earth. The world is not fair. You need to understand this. Winners don't cower. They don't just back down. The world is never fair. That is the game Donald Trump knows how to play.
Hi guys, welcome to Escape Velocity. This is a podcast dedicated to your financial independence. And in this podcast, as I promised, we are going to be bringing people, renowned people who are going to be helping to shape your mindset, tell you opportunities that are out there for your financial independence. We are picking out investment vehicles, we're picking out things that you can put your money in, right? So that as you work hard on your W-2 or work hard anywhere else, you are also growing your portfolio as you do that. So today we are going to be looking into mindset, right? So mindset is a huge thing. Mindset is you cannot earn above your mindset, right? Mindset is that lead over your thinking, right? So as you expand your lead, you expand your money, you expand the income that you bring into your portfolio and your savings account or what have you. So today we have a wonderful guest in our midst. This is a guy that I respect so much. He's all over social media with his fashion sense. That is what you're going to notice when you check out his Instagram. And he's doing a lot more good for individuals out there. So I'm going to leave him to really delve deep into the things that he's into. Here we have Ernest today. Ernest is a guy I met at a cybersecurity conference a few years back. And we've grown our connection, our acquaintance through Synergy Hangout, which is a group here in Dallas that is dedicated to connecting young professionals together. So we've grown our acquaintance from there into friendship, and now we communicate more frequently. So today we have Ernest in our midst, and Ernest has a powerful presentation to give us today, right? He is an author, and he just celebrated his birthday. So it's a combo deal for us today in this podcast, right? So Ernest, welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to have you here. I know that you have your own podcast. You have Royalty Mindset Podcast, right?
Absolutely.
What is that all about?
So, well, first of all, John, thank you for bringing me on board today. It's a privilege to be on board, on set with you.
Thank you.
And let's see what we can share and what we can tell the people out there.
Thank you.
So basically, yeah. The Royalty Mindset podcast is actually a podcast where I talk to the people of the world, the citizens of the world, as I always like to call it.
Yeah.
The importance of our mindsets.
Okay.
You know, how we should think,
Yeah.
and how we should use that thought process to fix the world that we live in today. You know, you realize that a lot of people in the world today usually don't really know exactly. Some of them don't know exactly how to proceed in life.
Yeah.
What to do in life, how to deal wisely in the affairs of life. And that is what made me set up the Royalty Mindset podcast, just to be able to teach people or share my opinions on the best way to actually think, right? The best way to dress, and the best way to enthrone yourself as a royalty.
I like
just for you
that.
to be able
Enthrone.
to achieve success in life. So
I like
that's
that
basically
word.
what that podcast is all about.
That's beautiful. I like the word enthroned.
Absolutely. You know, the word royalty is all about kingship.
Kingship.
Yeah, you don't king until you are enthroned.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I like the punchlines. So, real quick, I really want to delve deep into who is Ernest, right? I mean, we see you out there, social media, doing your stuff in Paris, New York, you know, flying all around. Who is Ernest? How do you describe yourself to individuals out there?
Absolutely. Great question.
Thank you.
John. My name is Dr. Ernest Amuyinegbe, also known as Ernie Royalty. Ernie Royalty is my moniker in the fashion modeling world.
Okay.
So when I'm on stage, people refer to me as Ernie Royalty. And so that's what so many people know me to be.
Okay.
So my actual name is Dr. Ernest Amuyinegbe. Ernest is, first of all, a scientist, you know, an information scientist. I did my bachelor's in computer science, my master's in information technology, and a PhD in cybersecurity, honoris causa. I have always been a technologist, right from when I graduated from school. Even before I graduated from school, I've always loved technology, and that's what I have always, you know, known, and that is where I practice primarily.
Okay.
So I was born in Edo State and raised in Lagos State, Nigeria.
Okay.
So I speak Yoruba, I speak Benin.
Really?
Yeah, and so many other, you know, dialects around
Right.
Edo. Yeah, so that's basically who Dr. Ernest is. I am a mindset coach.
Okay.
And I'm resided in Dallas, Texas. I do a lot of stuff. I wear so many hats. I am an entrepreneur in the field of tech, e-commerce, finance, entertainment, and real estate. Yeah, that's just a little bit about Dr.
Beautiful.
Ernest.
Beautiful. The man of many hats, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's wonderful. So, I mean, we both are here. We both met at a cybersecurity conference. I'm a cybersecurity engineer myself too.
Right.
But I've closely watched you in the space. I see how you roll. I've learned a whole lot from you just watching you from afar, right? What would you say was the catalyst for you that gave birth to this Ernest we're seeing today? Was there like influences in your past? Was there like your dad, mom, or just a male figure in your life that really acted as a catalyst to help you become who you are today?
Absolutely. You know, unfortunately, I lost my dad when I was 5, so I didn't
sorry.
really grow to see, you know, my dad like that. I only got to know my dad on, you know, pictures, videos, on radios, because he used to sing.
Oh, wow.
They had some friends, they gathered together and, you know, they did music. And so when they played their song, I hear his voice, you know, in radios and, of course, videos and pictures. So that's actually where I got to really know my dad. Yeah, but I was surrounded by a lot of prominent people. You know, in my family, there's a lot of prominent people in my family that I looked up to. You know, my family is all about success. We dream about success every time. We always want to get things done. So I was influenced by, you know, my uncles, my aunts, and my family, and all of that. But I would say my greatest influence is no other person than Dr. Chris Oyakilome. I grew up in church, yeah. So I got exposed early in life to spiritual things, you know, through this man's teachings and so many other people around. So I would say he has the greatest impact in my life. The way I think today, actually born out of his teachings that I grew up listening, reading, and watching on TV, books, and of course in radios. Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I myself, sat under Pastor Chris's teaching for like 3 years of my life when I first moved to Dallas.
Nice.
So we do share that in common. But what was it about Pastor Chris that drew you to him? And how did he help shape your mindset?
Thank you very much. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Yeah. People have a way of influencing us from afar.
Right.
I was not even a member of the church when I started reading his books, when I started, watching his television program, his podcast, and all of that. One thing was certain. I realized that this man was mostly talking about how we can be successful in life and how we can change our mindset. Things we should be thinking about, things we should be talking about, and all of those things, and how they can form the way we think, our thought process. So I read some of his books, and one of his best books that I can always say that I have read is Recreating Your World. Recreating Your World was a book that I was forced to buy as a student in Abrusale University, Egboman. And I thought I was being treated in a very harsh way, not knowing that book was going to change my life forever. Another of his books that also changed my life is The Prophecy. So he wrote those two books, I read those two books, and my life never remained the same. The way I think, the way I talk, the way I view life, my perspective generally changed as a result of those two books and so many other books, of course, I have read aside of Chris's domain that have actually switched or changed my mindset to what it is today.
That's beautiful and really, really powerful. I mean, somebody once said that we are not going to be the same person, or rather, we are going to be the same person we are today in 5 years' time, except for the books that we read, the people we've met. Surrounding yourself with materials like that really, really changes your perception and perspective in life. And so that's really great, and I'm happy. At what time? At what age were you exposed to those materials?
Yeah, I was a teenager at that point in time.
That's good.
I was around 14, 15, 16, when I started reading his books.
Okay.
But I have been watching his television podcasts and all of that since, early 2000s, so he looks exactly like one of my uncles.
Oh, really?
Yes. So we will always tell ourselves, hey, this is like Uncle John, talking on TV.
Right.
So we just developed that interest to see him more and more because he looked like somebody in my family.
Right.
So that was actually how I developed interest in the man, and no regrets today.
That's beautiful. That's
Absolutely.
beautiful. So the statement which we made earlier on, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. What does that mean to you?
Yes. So what that means to me basically is whatever information we allow into us, whatever we consume, right, we form our thought process. So that's the reason why sometimes when you meditate on some things, before you know it, you start seeing the same thing happening. You want to buy a G-Wagon right now, for example, and you are very particular and specific about the color. Say you want a white G-Wagon, and you started thinking about it. Every time you go out, you are definitely going to be able, you will see a lot of white G-Wagons just because your mind has been attuned to that particular picture in your mind. So whatever you think forms your thought process. And that is what you voice out. And that is what you see in life. So that's why we say, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. You are not better than the word you speak. You are not better than the thoughts in your mind. So that's the reason why we're always very careful of the kind of words we speak and the kind of thoughts we allow through our mind into our hearts. So as a man thinks in his heart, so is he.
Bro, I'm interviewing you, but I'm feeling it.
I'm feeling it. Yes.
But mindset has always been like that place where I am intrigued. I'm intrigued, There's a book I listen to every year. It's called Dissects, So basically, it's just like this book where teaches you that thoughts are things. Thoughts are things actually in the spirit realm, right? They are There are electromagnetic forces that we send out that attract things to ourselves,
Right.
And I've been able to, read a lot of books about angels, demons, and all those kind of stuff. I actually see that what we are thinking is actually creating a spiritual environment around us, right? By attracting all these spiritual beings that either come to deplete us or come to empower us, right? And these are what our thoughts does. One day I was showering, and I think that particular day I was not in a good mood. I had some stress and quarrels here and there. And I had a vision that day. I had a vision of a man who was just walking on the street, and there were a lot of flies on his head. Like a lot of flies on his head, right? And then went back to the scripture. What is the enemy called? Devil is called the Lord of Flies, because this is what they are attracted to. They are attracted to things that are decaying. They are attracted to darkness. They are attracted to thoughts that. So it brings me down to the question, right? Bro, you and I will stay very busy, and we can go on social media, and before we know it, we are distracted. How do you protect your thoughts from all these things, materials that we consume? Because you just said the things that we think about. Before you can think about that, you need to allow that into your heart. So how do you protect your mind from all this plethora of social media negativities?
Great question, John. You see, we are in the age where we can easily be distracted. You hold your phone every time, yeah? And before you know it, something is just ringing, something is popping in.
Right.
And then you want to check and you get distracted. But how do I keep afloat? It's a conscious effort. You have to be conscious about it. Awareness is very powerful. So when you are aware of the power of a thing, you know exactly how to deal with it. So being conscious of it, that this actually can distract me, and make that continuous effort to remove your mind from it, is what has actually been helping me.
Okay.
No one is void of those challenges. We are always faced with such kind of distraction. No one is safe from it, but you just have to make that effort to be conscious about it and say, hey, this is a distraction, and then I'm going to not let it happen to me. So consciousness.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So how was it you transitioned into cybersecurity, and you are also like a mindset coach? How was the whole transition in being for you, transitioning into cybersecurity, and some other businesses? You mentioned like a whole lot of businesses that you organize and manage. How do you stay balanced?
Cybersecurity for me, like I said earlier, is my first baby.
Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up doing tech. I've been in tech for the past 15 years. Since I started my career, it's always been tech. Yeah. Though I have moved around in different areas of tech, from business analysis to software development to tech operations to tech project management, before I actually came into the security side of things, right? I actually moved into the security side of things when I moved to the US.
Okay.
Yeah. So I realized that was easier for me, and at that point in time, it was also the hottest in the tech world, and there was more money, of course, and and I was particularly interested because of, we are Nigerians, right?
Yeah.
We Nigerian Americans. We know the stigma that follows us as Nigerians. We are not to be people who are fraudulent in the cyber world and all of that.
Yeah.
So I thought of a way. How can I redeem the image of my country? So we have a lot of fraudsters, internet fraudsters. Why don't I be an attacker of those people, where I curb the space, make a good name for my country and for myself as well. So that was actually one of the reasons why I decided to do or switch into cybersecurity, and it's been awesome so far. And this day, I own a cybersecurity risk management firm, where
Beautiful.
I provide risk advisory, control testing, training staff in different organizations, and of course, personal trainings to my mentees, my students, but I
Okay.
have a training academy. So yeah, that is what it is today. And of course, other businesses that I run, like I mentioned earlier, e-commerce, finance consulting, entertainment, real estate, and the likes.
Okay.
I am able to stay balanced because I just enjoy what I do. I do not see any of these things as work.
Okay.
So it is easy for me to kind of just like dabble into one of these things and make success out of it. And they've all been very successful so far.
Beautiful. The podcast today, we are really dedicating it to something special. I had posted something on WhatsApp and you replied, and then that was how I got to know that you were in the process of writing a book
Yep.
as of that time. And one thing I like about you is that you are a very dynamic leader.
Thank you.
You look at the trend and you develop a product that can serve people, right? And that is an inspirational something, right? Even though we just came out from an election, a lot of emotions are high. People are lambasting, people are angry. Some Christians are happy, some others are not happy. But I think I was having a conversation with you around that time. You told me, hey, this guy is not my most favorite person, but I was able to draw out some wisdom from his story, right? So I'm going to give you an opportunity. I want you to talk about the book that you just released. Talk about the Trump effect, the winning mindset. That's what this whole podcast is about.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, John. See, this is the book we are talking about right now, right? The Trump effect, the winning mindset. I had always wanted to write a book. I knew I would write so many books in life. I would one day become an author, but I never knew it was going to start in 2024.
Nice.
It was just right after the election. The election was November 5th, and the result was, announced on the 6th of November.
Right.
And on the 7th, I started writing this book, and I wanted it out before inauguration, which happened on January 20th, 2025. So what actually happened, I had watched, closely the campaign period, watching Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, and others. And I never liked Trump. Trump was never my person. I was never a fan of Donald Trump. In fact, when he was being elected in 2016, I actually prayed against him. I said, God, do not let this man win. And he won. And then that 4 years was, full of turbulence. It was chaotic. America was divided like never before. So many things happened that even made me, I didn't want to see this man. I didn't want to hear about this man's name. And then he came again in 2024 and said he was running again. I was like, what is this man coming for again? We don't want to have that America again. So, and then I never believed he was going to win. I was like, he has a lot of things against him, actually. He has a lot of legal battles he has to face. A lot of, his name has been stained. So definitely he's not going to be there. In fact, his name should not even be in the ballot box. But at the end of the day, this man went through all of these challenges and emerged the winner for the second time. Then I sat down. I was like, who exactly is this man, Donald Trump? There must be something about this man. And if I keep going against this man, it's almost like me going against God's will or God. Okay, I'm not religious, guys. This is just me. I'm very spiritual. This is just me earning my opinions, what I saw, my perspective. I just concluded at that point in time that if you continue to go against this man, you are just against a moving train. I realized that this man truly is a moving train. And there was something really, really big about this man. Unique about him that I needed to put my time in and research more about this man. Okay? Then I started doing my research and I uncovered a lot of things. And I told myself, if I had known these things before, I wouldn't be going against this man. And guys, don't get me wrong. I am still not that man, or I'm not that man that believes everything Donald Trump does. I do not believe all his ideologies.
Yeah.
Neither do I believe
Yeah.
all his rhetorics and all of that. So, but I just believe there's something unique about this man that we all can learn from.
Yeah.
I picked out the positive attributes of the man and wrote about him. This book is a biography of the man Donald Trump. It is not political. It's not a political book. It is a mindset and motivational book.
Yeah.
I am a mindset coach. I just felt it was necessary for me to bring out something to strengthen people's mindsets. There are positive attributes about this man, Donald Trump, that I highlighted in this book that you and I definitely need in our lives to be successful.
Okay.
This is the man that has gone through different scandals. This is the man whose name has been stained with a lot. This is the man that should not even be speaking in public today, okay? But he's still standing tall despite all of these challenges, despite all of the, scandals. Like I mentioned earlier, I never even believed he was going to be qualified to be in the ballot. I thought he was going to be in jail. But here's this man today presiding over us as the president of the greatest nation on earth after all those troubles. That tells you something, that there's something about this man that you and I can learn. If you and I will remove sentiments and really focus on the positive attributes of this man, I tell you the truth, we are going to achieve success. So the Trump effect is a certain mindset. It is not just a word or a statement. It is a mindset of resilience, a mindset of tenacity, a mindset of ambition, a mindset of confidence, that is self-belief. And these are the things, these are factors, these are core qualities that every mind should be built with in order to sustain itself or in order to win any battle in life. You and I definitely are going to face challenges in life. We may face at different times, but life is not void of challenges. So if life is full of challenges, it means that we have to be prepared to handle those challenges or those challenging times when they come. And only positive mindset stand the test of time. If you have a mindset that is weak, a mindset that is negative, definitely you're not going to be able to stand when that time comes. When that storm comes upon you and beats you down, you will fall and not be able to rise. But if you are resilient, you will be able to stand up and move. Look at Trump, for example. He had a lot of detractors, distractions, oppositions, slanders, and many things, accusations, allegations. Instead of him focusing on those things, he remained focused on his goal of returning to power. We have seen this even in his time as a student, as a businessman in the real estate world, and now as a politician. Everything this man has done, he's faced a lot of challenges. And one thing is certain, he always comes out successful. He always comes out a winner. And that is what this book is all about. It's a certain mindset, a mindset of resilience, a mindset of self-belief and confidence, and a mindset of tenacity and ambition. If you're ambitious, it means you have a goal, you can see the future. And you only focus on the future and not what people say about you. You see, that I don't care attitude. That is what the Trump effect basically is all about. It is a general framework. That is a universal framework that everyone can use, irrespective of who you are or whatever your pursuits in life are. It is not about Donald Trump. It is about you. It's about me. That is what this book is all about.
No, beautiful, man. Like you went. I could feel the passion. I could feel the passion that you spoke with, especially in regards to this book. So I like a whole lot of stuff that you said. Number one, this is not a political book. Let's start from there, because we're going to have like a wide, varied audience here. This is not a political book, but it's only a fool that will see something working and not ask a question. How or why is this thing working like it's working? I want to know, right? It takes a lot of guts to really read a book written about somebody that you hate. It takes a lot of guts to do that. But one thing I have learned in life is that even in politics, there are no permanent enemies, right?
Yeah.
They are, they are friends at the end of the day. When you see them out there hanging out, they shake hands and all that. So in politics, there are not permanent enemies, just like permanent interests.
Yeah.
As they would say. So I like that you stated that about the book. And so we're talking about the Trump mindset. And this is a man that I would say, if an ordinary person faced the obstacles that Trump ever faced, the person would have been buried by now.
Yep.
Buried in mountains of legal expenses and all that.
Right.
But Trump was able to persevere. One word that comes to my mind when I think about Donald Trump is resilience. Can you speak on that?
Yes, absolutely. What is resilience, if we even start by asking that? Resilience is the ability to stand against oppositions, against storms. When you are beaten, that you continue to shake it off, stand up, and move. That is resilience. That is exactly what Trump exemplifies. Trump, what we just mentioned, he has faced a lot of challenges in life.
Right.
Challenges strong enough to pull people out. But this man never bows out. He never bowed down to any of those foxing oppositions. He just focused on his goal. He keeps moving.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned earlier that it's a moving train. It's a moving train. Moving train is, symbolizes resilience. And that's who the man Donald Trump is. You see, you mentioned earlier, you were like, how did you write about a man that you never liked?
Right.
One thing is certain, if you are wise people, that's what is common among successful people.
Right.
They don't just hate. They must have a reason why they do things they do, why they do, whatever they do. Looking at that, for example, people's problem in life is focusing more on negativities. No one is so clean. You have yours, I have mine.
Yeah.
But if I choose to, focus on your negativity or the bad aspect of you, I'm not going to be able to enjoy the benefits that John brings.
Yeah.
A lot of people focus on Trump's, negativities and forget the positive side of him.
Yeah.
That's why I decided to highlight his positive attributes.
Beautiful.
That you and I can make use of and achieve something for ourselves in life. Yes.
Amazing. I like the definition of resilience, I think the good book, the Bible, would say, a righteous man felleth 5 times and riseth up the 6th time, however he puts it, but that's resilience, right?
Yeah.
Not giving up, focusing. You use the word focus, and I really want to delve deep on that. So in the book, I think in chapter 2, there is a quote from Donald Trump. It says, I will try to learn from the past, but I plan for the future by focusing exclusively on the present. That's where the fun is. I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
A lot of people, because of the type of past that we have, right? The past becomes a string that is impeding our motion in life, that is drawing us back. So you can see somebody take like 10 steps this year, but maybe in November, the past will draw the person back 11 steps,
Yeah.
What do you have to say? Now, we're talking in context of mindset.
Yeah.
And the Bible always say something about strongholds.
Yeah.
Strongholds is mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you have to say? Donald Trump said, I will learn from the past, but I plan for the future by focusing exclusively on the present. That is where the fun is. How would you define the past? How would you define the present and the future? And what relationship do all of them have?
Great question, John. You see, the past, as we know it, is a simple term. The past.
I like that.
Yes, it's a simple term, the past. So you cannot get back what you have already passed. The past is gone.
Yeah.
Why focus on the past? when you have the future ahead of you, and of course
Right.
today.
Right.
So they always say that the joy of the sorrow of yesterday is the still of tomorrow's joy. How they say these things. But one thing is certain: the future is actually now, because today is the future of yesterday.
Right.
Yeah. Now we are in today. The the future we spoke about yesterday is today,
Right.
and that's why he's saying that I enjoy the now. I enjoy the present,
Right.
but I focus on the future. Enjoying the present simply means looking at what your why is, your purpose in life. When you understand your why, when you understand your purpose, your life's purpose, you are able to tell where exactly you are in your life journey. So if you have planned well and you have arrived at the future, which is today, you know exactly what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. Focus on those things you're doing right, correct those things you are doing wrong, and that is what will lead you to the future of tomorrow, which is tomorrow.
Right.
So focusing on the future and enjoying today is basically what that is. Forget about the past; it's gone. There's nothing you really can do about that.
Right.
Focus on today. Look at what you have achieved. Look at what you have not achieved yet. Do what you need to do. Correct what you need to correct. For that will lead you to the future, which is tomorrow that you dream of, basically. So the
Beautiful.
fun is in today, because that is what you have to correct tomorrow. That is the reason why he says that, that is where the fun is. If you miss it today again, tomorrow will be loud, just like the past. Yes.
There's a scripture that came to my mind. It says Jesus, for the price that was set before him, endured the cross.
Yeah.
So for the prize, so he was definitely looking at the future for the
the greater
prize,
glory.
for the
Yeah.
greater glory, for the glory that was set before him,
Right.
right? He endured the cross,
Yeah.
right? And obviously he was seeing a future that, warranted a sacrifice in the present
Yeah.
to be able to go through that, right? And let's bring it down to, the context of our conversation today. How can people structure, or what do people need to do, right? Because Donald Trump, as it is right now, had a vision of the future that he was dreaming about.
Yeah.
And literally, the guy was turning all political obstacles around, right? He's not a saint, right? But he was able to flip out everything around. Like, in the midst of all the obstacle, he was flipping everything like as a political bullet. If
Yeah.
you shoot him, you take the bullet and put it in his gun and shoot you back.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm talking about the ordinary people in the streets, right? That would read this book and be like, how can I get the winning mindset of Trump, right? What do people need to do so that they can structure their lives in such a way that they don't back out when obstacles face them?
Simple. Do not give a. Excuse my French again. This is very raw. Do not give a. See, in life, we are always concerned about what people think or feel about us. The moment you start giving in, you'll be pressurized. The world is not fair. You need to understand this. Winners don't cower. They don't just back down. The world is never fair. Let me tell you something. Even in the scripture, right? The Bible says the children of the world enjoy more than the children of God. What does that tell you? It means that you need to be street smart. The fact that you are spiritual does not mean you should not understand what happens in the realm of the realm of men. You understand what I mean? The world is never fair. You need to learn to play dirty as well. Don't just be that peaceful man every time. Peace is good, but know when to switch. That is the game Donald Trump knows how to play. Let me tell you what I uncovered in my research. Back in those days, in the 70s, 80s, Trump was just getting into the real estate world after he had graduated, and then his father has given him all the necessary information he needed to thrive.
Right.
Join his dad in his real estate business, but he had a different mindset to build skyscrapers. The dad was basically building single family, an apartment kind of real estate buildings. But this guy came out and said, no, I don't want to go that route. I want to do something different. I want to buy hotels. I want my name to be written bold on it, Trump. I want something different for myself. And for him to be able to do that, he had to, start, mingling with people that matters in the society. That is what I have learned also from the 48 laws of power. Attention is very good. You need to connect with people that matters. This guy started going from one club to another. No, the best clubs in New York. He will go there and live a lavish lifestyle. Crested his name on his plate, on his car, on those kind of stuff. So he started mingling with people that matter, and those were the people that actually even made him who he is today. Some legal professionals in the field, some great political leaders you see today in America. He got connected with those guys back in those days. You see, he was basically learning how the world works at that point in time. He was learning how to be ruthless. He was learning how to play the game. And that is what you need to do. He learned from that moment on that you never have to give a fuck in life. See, let me tell you something. We live in a society that tries to make us what they feel we should look like or we should be like. Everything you see today is all societal pressures. People do something and everyone is like, hey, you must resign, you must do this, you must do that. The society pressures that person to the point where that person comes and say, okay, I'm very sorry, I did something wrong, please forgive me. And then he will resign from that position or whatever it is, right? At that moment on, you've been defeated. I don't know how to explain this, but if you stay resilient and say, hey, who the are you? I'm sorry, I'm using these words on your podcast. He's gonna say, who are you exactly? You are who you are, I am who I am. I'm living my life, you live your life. That is what Trump has learned. And I tell you the truth, if you learn how to live this way without minding what people say or think about you, you will be different. You might be tagged, arrogant. You might be tagged rude. You may be tagged inhuman by different people or whatever, but none of those things matters. Yeah, what matters is, are you surviving? Remember, we live in life. It's survival of the fittest. It's adaptation. It's survival of the fittest. So whatever you have seen yourself to be, this is where it all plays out. So the question is, how do they get that same type of mindset? Is what I've just explained. Understand who you are. Know that whatever you say is what matters in your life and not the opinions of the people out there looking at you. Your opinion is more important than any other person's opinion as regards your life. Do not listen to what they say. Do not let them beat you down to the way they want to form you to be. Be you. Be you. And that is how Donald Trump does his things. And that's what has earned him the success he has earned, or how he's been able to overcome all the obstacles he's faced, So be you and be resilient.
One of the things that I love about everything that you just said is that the be you section, where you explained that something happens when somebody has money. Something happens when people's opinion don't control how you behave. Something happens when you feel like you are empowered to be whoever you want to be. And I feel like when Donald Trump came into power, he came with that effect. He came with the effect that I have my own private jets. I can do whatever I want to do. I want to talk about finance real quick. How finance actually helps you to shape who you become. I think there was one particular day, I just sat down and I was just talking to an individual, and then we had like a mountain of problems to solve. But at that particular point in time, I wasn't feeling anything, even though the pressure was still there, but I wasn't feeling the pressure, right? Because I know that perhaps the bank account was buoyant enough to solve that problem. You understand?
Yeah.
So I felt like there is a little bit of power. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. There's a little bit of power that comes in when you be like, I don't want to cower, right? So what role does finances play in you not giving up?
Oh, it plays a lot. Huge. Even the Bible says a poor man's opinion means nothing in the sight of the people.
Right.
When a rich man talks, everybody listens. That's the reason why we thrive to make this money.
Right.
Because it's power. The Bible also mentions that wisdom is a defense. And money also is a defense. There is something that money does. It amplifies your boldness, your confidence, if you know who you are.
Right.
That is what Trump uses. When I mentioned that this book, there are core characteristics or factors that shapes a man's winning mindset. That is ambition, resilience, and self-belief. Self-belief is basically confidence. You see, when you have self-belief, when you are confident, and money will amplify this thing for you. You look at everybody that is talking to you like, okay, are you better than me? It's just like when you are good looking. That automatically opens so many doors for you because you are just good looking.
Right.
You look at every other person and like, okay, they look good too, but I think I'm great as well. So what do they have that I don't have? It automatically creates that sense of confidence in you. Trump knows these things. He knows these things. He knows the people that backs him. You know what I'm talking about. He has the money. He has the appearance. And all of those things. And those things command respect. So that's why he could look at everyone and say, okay, you think you are this, you think you are okay. And he plays on people's mind. He gives their names. Sleepy Joe. Little Marco Rubio, Little Mark or Little Rubio, you know, and all of those type of stuff. So just to bring you down and amplify himself above you. And whenever people see his opponent, they look at them based on the name he's called them.
Yeah.
But looking at him as the only one that is qualified, I tell you the truth, the world is not fair.
Yeah.
You need to fight, and you need to not learn how to fight dirty if you must stand out. Again, I am talking basically about mindset, the winning mindset. You can't be a coward and expect to win. You can't be a mediocre and expect to win. You've got to go out ruthlessly. You've got to face the world. That does not mean you should not be humble. There's a difference between mediocrity and humility. You could be a mediocre and be rude and not be humble. At the same time, you could be humble and not be a mediocre. You just know you're right. You know what belongs to you. You know where you belong. You know the field you play. It's self-discovery, my friend. It's self-discovery. And until you actually discover yourself to know exactly the power that you have, you may not be able to really do or move some certain mountains in life. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about in this book.
All right. So we're talking about mindset. We're talking about thoughts. We're talking about the book, the Trump effect, the winning mindset. You know, I usually go back to the Bible, you know, when I reflect on mindset, because the Bible is like the book of authority for me, you know. So the scripture I was thinking about in the beginning, for Jesus Christ, for the joy that was set before him, endured
and
the
glory
cross.
that follow.
Exactly. So, and I think it was Paul that was speaking again. It says, you know, I don't count myself to have apprehended anything, but I look forward to the things that are set before me, you know. That has really helped me in my own personal journey in life, because there are pasts, just like you said, there are pasts, right? There are pasts that are really weighty. You know, there are pasts that really pull you emotionally. There are things that you would think about today, and before you know it, you are depressed. You understand? And so when it comes to mindsets, it's very important that we be very cognizant of the gates that we have and the things that we are allowing through that gate.
Right.
Because they are constantly influencing our lives, and we are being a product of how we think on a daily basis, you know. So I want to ask you a question. You cannot separate mindset and success. You can't separate mindset and success, right? We have mentioned resilience, that is really good. We've mentioned focus, that is really good. But what are some other traits for people who are successful or people who are looking to be successful? What are some traits they should focus on and start developing?
Very good question. Very, very good question. We learn every day.
Yeah.
I look up to a lot of people. I like to study people's way of doing things.
Right.
Especially those that are well ahead of me. I listen to them a lot.
Right.
Ask questions, get mentored from afar. You don't have to even be connected to somebody to be mentored by that person. You can actually be mentored from afar. So there are a lot of people that I see in the business world that I want to be like, people that I know, as friends that I can go up to if I have access to them and ask questions, and those that I cannot go to. I look at what they do from afar, what their podcasts, their interviews and stuff like that. So it is all about that consciousness. You have to be hungry for it. Success doesn't just come. You have to be conscious and be ready for it. Like, you have to be really ready and hungry for it. Whatsoever you desire comes to you. Earlier in the podcast, we started by saying that if you want to buy a white G-Wagon now, so that automatically becomes your thought process. So, and the pictures will keep coming to your mind. Anytime you drive by, you are definitely going to see or be able to spot a white G-Wagon because it has become part of you. Let's even start, from the, way this world was actually created. In the book of Genesis, I know this is not a Christian podcast, but this is just like I'm compelled to make use of this at this moment. In the book of Genesis chapter 1, we look at how the world was created. Yeah? The Bible mentioned, I said the world was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And it said, but the Spirit of the Lord brooded upon the waters. Yeah? The Spirit of the Lord brooded upon the waters. The word brood here is basically imagination. So the Spirit of the Lord was actually imagining as he was hovering over the waters. Like, this is so chaotic. There can actually be this, there can actually be that. There can be light, there can be, this water separated, and we have dry land, we have the sky, we have all of those things. That was what the Spirit of the Lord was imagining. So the part of imagination here. So you start creating those thought process as you imagine what you want to be. And before long, the Bible also made us understand that God started speaking out of that imagination. That's why I always say that your imaginative ability is your creative ability. You can create anything. You can manifest anything in life. If first of all you know what you want. That's what I mean by the hunger. You have to be conscious of what you want. You want success, yes. How do I get that success? You need to be hungry to continuously push towards achieving that success. That is where the imagination comes in. So you continuously think about this thing from time to time. So when the Lord began to speak, the Bible recalls that those things he spoke forth became. He created those things from imagination. He saw a chaotic situation and wanted a change. His spirit imagined, and then he spoke. And those things were created. They became. Same thing happens here. You want to be successful in life, you have to be aware of who you are. You have to think of where you want to be, the success you want to create, and then begin to imagine it, and then begin to speak it forth and work towards it. In no distant time, you have those things. So that is mindset. And that's why I mentioned earlier, you have to be very careful of what you think, what you speak. This is the combination now. What you think and what you speak. So when you have all of this together and you have that specific goal in your mind that you continuously dream about, you continuously think about, and then you speak about, you have just developed a mindset of a creator.
Yeah.
And before long, you have those things you desire. So desire is very key.
Desire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of repetition of that in the book Think and Grow Rich.
Yes.
You can desire and manifest your desire, But there is something you said about hunger. And I usually tell my mentees this, that I cannot teach you hunger. I cannot teach you how to be hungry. It's something that has to be generated inside of you.
Yeah.
There are people that really lack motivation to do things. They lack motivation. Perhaps we spoke about Trump. Perhaps life has just beaten them down. They are in a place called depression. In a land called depression. They don't have any hunger for anything. you know. They just want, there's a there's a difference between I just want something and I'm committed to doing something,
Right.
Somebody who just wants something can want it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and it still be a want. But the person who is committed to doing something or achieving something takes action towards that, right? So, what would your advice be for individuals who perhaps they are in a lot of, daydreaming, wanting things into doing something to able to manifest what they are, desiring. So, how do you suggest somebody moves from a very depressed state where they lack no motivation into a person who is hungry for success? Does that make sense?
Very well. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. You see, it starts with hope. Hope is that essence where people live. Hope is the future you see. You say, okay, so if you lose hope, people commit suicide because they've lost hope.
Yeah.
They see nothing to live for. There is no substance, no essence. So they commit suicide because they kind of like, oh, so what am I living for? There is nothing to live for because they have no hope. So it starts with hope. When you are hopeful of a future that you desire, okay, that is what is good. That's vision, basically. And that is what is going to spur you into action. Like you mentioned, you can't teach people to be hungry.
Right.
You can only motivate. I'll tell you a story. In my academy, where I train people, especially in cybersecurity, right? I usually come across two set of people.
Okay.
The those that are hungry and those that are not hungry. Okay? And my responsibility is to motivate. After training you, I will motivate you. I usually bring past students to the class to come talk to the new students.
Yeah.
The past students that have made something out of the class, who are now, doing very well in their careers today, making good money, living a good life, I will bring them on board and say, guys, come talk to my new students. That is basically to motivate them, to let them know, hey, this is possible. I was once like you. Now I went through this same program and here I am today.
Right.
If I have been able to do it, you can as well do it.
Sure.
So that is usually a motivation. Even at that, you see some students are really motivated and like, wow. In fact, I was actually having a doubt, but with what I have heard from this person today, I think I can as well be like this person. I can do it. They get motivated and you see the results come out for them real quick. And another set of people, despite all the motivation, they are still there, looking for somebody to pick them up and just throw them where they are supposed to be. It doesn't happen like that. So you can't teach people to be hungry. You can only do what you have to do, which is motivate, and then it's left for them to be motivated and really spring into action and do what they are supposed to do. Again, that's where we develop this mindset. If you've developed that positive mindset, I tell you the truth, it will be easy. It will be very easy for you to ride. Of course, there will be it's not void of challenges, but you are sure of success at the end of the day.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So you had said something earlier on about focus, right? And you know what happens when we focus on a thought? It tends to magnify in our head. I've had like a lot of financial sessions with individuals back home in Nigeria, and one of the resistance that I usually get is that the principles that I'm teaching is only applicable in America. So the principle of mindset, the principle of success, the principle of abundance is only applicable in America. And one of the reasons why individuals resort to saying things like that is because of this word focus, right? See, if you have mastered to focus on abundance, abundance will start appearing everywhere you go. It's just that instance that you used about the reticular activation system in the brain, when you want to buy a red car, all of a sudden, everywhere you go, red cars everywhere. Do you know why? It's because the mind processes billions of images in a day. So unless something stands out, okay, think about it this way. Think about a purple elephant. It's very strange. It is out of ordinary. Elephant is just elephant is that word is abstract, right? And now your reticular activation system is trying to create that particular pink elephant, right? So that's exactly what happens, because your mind needs to be given something to filter through all the images that is seeing on daily basis. Billions of images, right? But your mind needs to prioritize. Like it's like your mind is certain, always prioritizing. What image am I going to place in front of Ernest? What image am I going to place in front of John or Chiamaka or whoever you are, right? When you meditate on making sure you pull down the stronghold of depression or anything and focus, put your focus on abundance, put your focus on getting hungry.
Right.
That is when you are actually transformed. As the good word will always say, as we look in a mirror, the word of the Lord, we are transformed, right? As we behold the word, we are transformed. Yeah, so that is exactly what happens. Transformation starts happening inside of you when you really, really hold those thoughts of light, the thoughts that are filled with light, the thoughts that, says, I am who I say I am, right? You mentioned know who you are. Right, I do have confessions in my tablet right now. Things I confess on daily basis. One of them is that I attract high net worth individuals. That's one of my confessions. Do you know? Just this week we are ending right now. I had a meeting with a man that sold a company, or rather built a company that he sold. The company is worth $1 billion right now. Why? Because I confess these things. I am attracting high net worth individuals. I am building a network of high net worth individuals. And when opportunity for that came, I immediately grabbed it like this. Because my mind is ready.
You're aware.
My mind is aware.
Who you are.
My mind is aware. Yes. I'm ready. My reticular activation system is looking for those opportunities everywhere. So that's how important it is to really focus, like fix your mind in where you are going. Don't be looking at the past, man. The past is past. Just like you said, the past is past. So do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. You've just summarized it all. We had said this over and over again here since we started talking. It's basically about imagination. You talked about strongholds. Strongholds are imaginations.
Right.
They are imagination. The thoughts in your head.
Wow.
Yeah, those are stronghold.
Wow.
People are held back based on the information they process. They allow into their brains, to their minds.
Wow.
So they get held back as it is. Oh, fear is a factor.
Wow.
It's a factor. And fear actually comes just the same way faith comes. The Bible says faith comes by hearing, and hearing of the word of God, right? The same happens to fear. Fear is the opposite of faith, right? Fear also comes by what you hear, what you see, and what you listen to.
Right.
So when you are able to put all of this together, you discover that those strongholds you are struggling with, like they say, oh, whatever you preach is only applicable in America. That is a blatant lie. 1,000 times no. That's not true.
Right.
It is a framework that is generic and can be applied anywhere in the world. Under the water, above the sea, everywhere you are, that principle is applicable. There's law of attraction. You think about a thing, and those things are attracted to you. If you think success, you will only see success. You think failure, you only see failure. So that's the reason why I am very passionate about the topic of mindset. Because I want people to win. I want people to really be able to win. I want people to understand how big and how important their mind, is. The greatest gift given to man, right, is the power of thought and the power of speech. That is the greatest gift God gave to you and I. The power to think and the power to talk. If you are able to think positivity and able to speak positivity, you will be amazed how things just fall into place for you.
Right.
You talked about wanting high network individuals in your circle. It was a thought. That's positive thinking. And then probably you say you have a faith proclamation written down and you speak those things forward. You say,
Right.
you will always tell yourself, I want, high net worth people in my environment, in my circle.
Right.
And God is placing those people effortless. If you are not a Christian, this is not about Christianity. It's not about Islam. This is not about Buddhism or whatever. It's a universal law. It's a universal law. Once you are able to process those things, they just automatically fall in place.
Right.
Effortlessly. And I really want people to get this. I want people to get it. Unfortunately, not everyone is able to get it.
There's something I really want to bring out. So you spoke about imagination and you spoke about strongholds. There are some thoughts that are deeply, deeply embedded in people, right? Like there are people that genuinely believe that everybody is supposed to be poor in life. They genuinely believe that because that is literally everything that the environment spoke to them about.
Yeah.
You know? And there are people that the thoughts of their head always constantly condemn them. You spoke about the conversations that we have in between our two ears, right? This giant machine called the mind. How important is environment to mindset?
Oh, see, it plays a very big role in the way our mind functions. See, you are not going to be better than the environment in which you were raised. Yes. Except you make that effort, that conscious effort to live above that surrounding. So now, let's take a look at it this way. See, one of the reasons why I'm very grateful that I found myself in a ministry like Christ Embassy as I was growing up is because of what I learned there. I had been to so many other ministries before I was like, this is it. My mind was opened. It was like my brain was just opened and so many information were dumped right in it so I can think properly. And that's my driving force today. The environment you find yourself matters a lot. People behave the way they behave, talk the way they talk, think the way they think because of the environment that they were raised in. The families, the place of worship, the schools, everywhere they found them, the offices they found themselves in, the people they roll with. Haven't you heard? Birds of the same feather flock together.
They flock together.
What does that really mean? When they say flock is not just gathering. Flock also has to do with a mindset, a way of thinking.
Right.
When they say that if you find yourself amongst 5 millionaires, you'll be the 6th millionaire. Why that? Environment, relationship. So it has a big role to play in shaping our mindset.
No, this has definitely been, really good game, And one thing that I love that you said is that we have to exit the environment that is causing us to average out as poor.
Yep.
We have to exit those type of environments, One of the things about, books like this is that it actually forces you to see how things are working, A guy that was plagued with a lot of lawsuits, plagued with a whole lot of obstacles here and there, how was he able to rise up above that? So as I was speaking about him right now, the image that came to my mind right now is it's more like a seed that was planted in the ground, right? And even though you covered it with a whole lot of stuff, the seed really grew out of those obstacles.
Thumbs.
You must have to get to that place where you see yourself as a seed planted, even though the obstacles are heaped all over you, but you are deciding that I'm going to see the light and I'm going to grow upstairs and see things and see light, right? Above all these obstacles that definitely have. So that means that you have to consciously start changing your environment for you to grow, right? It has to be an internal work, just like Annie said, right? It has to be an internal work. You have to pull down those major strongholds, learn from Trump. I'm not saying become him,
fan or whatever. Yeah.
I'm not saying become him, but learn how he was able to push through all the obstacle that was really, really in front of him, was able to grow and become who he is today. So environment truly matters. Ernest says something that is very important. You don't really have to be physical with the person before the person can mentor you, right? A person can virtually mentor you. A person can mentor you through their books, through their materials. Have you seen Pastor Chris in person?
Yes.
Have you
many times.
met him
One-on-one?
one-on-one?
No.
I have neither, met him one-on-one, but he has mentored a whole lot of people through the books that they read. And there are lots of good authors out there. John C. Maxwell, consume his book.
Yeah.
Literally, one of my goals in the next 2 years is to finish everything John C. Maxwell ever wrote, because the materials are so good. And I'm a student of leadership, right? And I want to consume materials of people who are leading, people who are making impacts, And so whenever I saw Ernest publish this book, I was like, I need to bring this guy to this podcast. He has to tell us more about himself, tell us more why, especially your story in relation to Donald Trump was really striking, right? Because you never supported this guy, but all of a sudden you are like, I have been a mindset coach and there is something here. Let me go and research. Let me go and dig deep, So that is really, really amazing, right? Real quick before we close.
Yeah.
I want to ask, what is one thing you would want our audience here to remember about you? Perhaps something that nobody knows before.
Okay. Of course, it's not everything I post on social media.
Right.
I have my privacy. Yeah.
Right.
What I decide or what I want you guys to see are the only thing that I post. Right. So I think what you have on the social media space is basically enough for you, right? For now, to know about me. Maybe in the future more will be revealed,
Right.
but of course they are all going to be positive things.
Nice.
Yeah.
How do people connect with you?
Yes, you can connect with me on social media space. You can go to Instagram and connect with me. Search for Ernie Royalty, EARNIE ROYALTY, Ernie Royalty. That's my Instagram handle, my TikTok handle, my Twitter handle, even my Facebook handle. So you can always set me out there and connect. Yeah.
So for people who want to buy this book, how would they purchase it?
Yes. So this book is on Amazon.
Okay.
Is on Barnes and Noble, is on Ingram Spark, is on many platforms all over the world.
Okay.
Yeah, so the audio will be coming out sometime next or 2 weeks from now.
Nice.
Yeah, so right now we have the paperback, the hard cover, and of course the PDF.
Okay.
What's it called? Ebook.
Ebook.
Yeah, that you can read on Kindle and all that stuff, kind of stuff. Yeah, but we're coming up with the audio very soon.
All right, guys. I got my own book. I have my own Kindle right here, right? And I love reading on Kindle because I can highlight, and
Right.
I'm going to definitely have a date with the book because I want to learn, right? Want to grow my mindset. I want to see how the big thinkers think, right? And see how I can overcome obstacles. So, what is one word that you want our audience to remember from this whole stuff? If you could summarize everything we've talked about today,
Right.
what is that sentence or one word or however you want to put it that you want our audience to remember?
Mind what you think. Mind what you consume. The kind of information you consume. Mind what you allow into your spirit. And mind what you speak. Yes, for out of the belly of a man speaketh he him. And out of the belly of a man comes out gushers of living waters. Meaning that whatever you have in you is what you can reproduce. If you have negativity in you, if you've consumed negative information, you can only provide or produce negativities. But if you have positivity consumed, you will only bring out positivity. And remember, only positive mindsets can win in life. You want success. Everybody wants to win. Nobody wants to lose. So you must be dedicated to these and be conscious of the kind of information you produce or you consume so that you are able to produce or reproduce that good or positive information that is going to land you in the dream that you have had for yourself. That's all I have for them.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. I like that. I like that. In summary, you cannot harvest from a seed that you've not sown.
Yeah.
So if you are consciously sowing seeds of greatness, if you are consciously sowing seeds of power, seeds of mind, seeds of positivity, that's what you are going to be harvesting, right? Somebody once said, I do not want to measure myself by the harvest I get every day. I want to measure myself by the quality of the seed that I sow inside my mind. So understand that you are the garden, and the seeds you are sowing are the things that you are going to reap in your life. So thank you for joining us in this episode of Escape Velocity. We are bringing people that will shape your mind, people like Ernest, people that are walking the talk, right? People that are implementing things that they are teaching about. That's the individuals that we promise to bring to this podcast, and people that are accomplishing or achieving financial independence in their life. So this episode was more about mindset, because you cannot, you can only make the money your mindset will allow, right? So it's good to learn how to deal with those setbacks, learn how to deal with obstacles, learn how to be resilient as a person, learn how to bounce back, because it's very necessary. You are not going to operate at energy level of 8 or 9 every day of your life. There are days you might be 4, there are days you might be 3, but learning how to bounce back really matters. I hope you get to bounce back if you are down. I hope you get to keep moving up if you are on that trajectory, and we hope to see you at the top. Thank you for joining this podcast. God bless.